I'm going somewhere uncomfortable today, 'cause what I'm about to lay out for you ain't some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. It's documented fact. And by end of this video, you're going to be proper pissed off. We're talking about age verification, government overreach dressed up as child safety, and why this whole system don't protect your kids. It puts them in more danger. Alright, you lot. Let's start with emotional blackmail, because that's exactly what this is. Every single time you push back against age verification, or you question whether handing your passport to a website is maybe a bad idea, you get hit with same response. Oh, so you're fine with kids seeing porn then? You want children to be groomed online? And Peter Kyle, UK Science and Technology Secretary, actually said on record that anyone who wants to overturn Online Safety Act is on side of predators. He sat there in a suit on camera and told every adult in this country that questioning a surveillance system makes you a non-sympathiser. That's a government official using children as a shield. And nobody called him out on it. Nobody stood up and said, mate, that's a disgusting thing to say to millions of people with legitimate privacy concerns. Because that's how it works, innit? You weaponise kids, and suddenly anyone who disagrees is a monster. Debate over. Discussion closed. Hand over your passport and shut up. And if you've been keeping an eye on news recently, you know what kind of company our current government keeps. Keir Starmer knew, but did not. That's all I'm saying. But here's what they don't want you thinking about. Who actually protects children? The parents or guardians do. People who are physically, emotionally, and legally responsible for that child's well-being. And I'm not saying this from some ivory tower of theory. I've raised two of my own. They're adults now, and both of them are functioning, decent human beings who respect me and the mother for being strict, for monitoring what they did online, for saying no when it needed saying. And you know what neither of them ever said? I resent you for keeping me safe. That bollocks argument, kids will hate the parents for being too protective, is an excuse invented by people who couldn't be asked doing hard part. My kids didn't hate us. They understood boundaries. And it turns out if you actually parent your children instead of farming that responsibility out to strangers on internet, they grow up understanding why you did it. And that's where this whole thing collapses. Because a massive chunk of this problem were created by a generation, mostly millennials, that got lazy. iPads became babysitters, and screens became pacifiers. When your toddler kicks off in a restaurant, you just shove a tablet in the face, stick on YouTube, job done. Nobody checking what's auto-playing next, or setting up parental controls, because that takes 5 minutes of effort, and apparently that's 5 minutes too many. Modern parents outsource their responsibility to algorithms designed by people who have zero connection to that child beyond one objective, keeping them engaged so they can monetize their attention. And 9 years later, after allowing an entire generation to raise themselves online, governments swoop in with this age verification theatre and act like saviours. We'll fix it! No, you won't, because you're not addressing root cause. Root cause is sitting on sofa scrolling TikTok while their 8-year-old has unrestricted access to everything internet has to offer. It's not technology or industry that's problem. It's a parenting problem. No amount of legislation will ever replace a parent who actually gives a shit. But you know what? My spidey senses are tingling. I can hear all twonks out there thinking, all right, Scotty, maybe it's not perfect, but at least it does something to help. Does it though? Because here's where age verification stops being incompetent and starts being actively dangerous. When you verify your age on a platform, you're handing over some combination of your name, your date of birth, your nationality, your identification number, your address, and in some cases a biometric scan of your face. Now read that list again. Name, date of birth, place of birth, mother's maiden name on some forms, identification numbers, Do you recognise that pattern? That's not an age check. That's every security question you've ever set up on every account you've ever owned. That's everything someone needs to steal your identity. And all that data gets stored somewhere. Data centres, servers, third-party verification companies you've never heard of and will never be able to audit. Well, it's secure, Scotty. Is it? Is it really? Here's your security. Authentics, an Israeli verification company used by X, TikTok, Uber, PayPal, and Coinbase, left administrative credentials exposed for over a year. Credentials that were harvested by malware in December 2022, posted on a public Telegram channel in March 2023, and were still working when security researchers found them in June 2024. Names, dates of birth, nationalities, identification numbers, images of passports and driving licenses, all sitting there for anyone with a Telegram account to walk in and help themselves. And when they got caught, their response was, "We see no evidence it were exploited." Oh, well, that's comforting, innit? Doors wide open for 18 months, but they reckon nobody walked through it. Discord's third-party age verification partner got breached in 2025. 70,000 government IDs stolen. Discord's response? Stop using that vendor and switch to Persona. Problem solved, right? Nope. Because in February 2026, a cybersecurity researcher cracked Persona's infrastructure wide open and discovered that a simple age check wasn't simple at all. Persona were running 269 separate verification checks per user, facial recognition comparisons, watch list screenings, politically exposed persons checks, adverse media analysis, risk scoring, and they retained that data for up to 3 years. You thought you were proving you're over 18, but they were building an intelligence dossier on you. Now Discord has switched to KID, who claims to delete images quickly, but even EFF still warns that KID don't eliminate risk. Discord already burned through multiple verification partners because previous ones kept failing. Entire models fundamentally broken regardless of which vendor's name's on the door this week. And then there's ID Merit, another verification vendor, which exposed nearly 1 billion records across over 20 countries in November 2025. That's 1 billion, with a B. National IDs, full dates of birth, contact data, everything a criminal needs for identity theft, SIM swapping, credit fraud, and social engineering at industrial scale. 419 cybersecurity professors and researchers from 30 countries published an open letter to governments warning that these systems create catastrophic security risks. Not bloggers, not conspiracy theorists, actual professors, hundreds of them, and they were ignored. And they want to try adding all that bollocks to Linux? How about get fucked, mate? But here's a bit that should properly terrify you if you're a parent. Because age verification doesn't just put adults at risk. It puts kids in more danger. Think about how these systems work. Every account that is verified gets flagged as adult. Every account that isn't verified gets treated as a minor or teen account. Depending on platform, it's trivially easy to identify which demographic an unverified account belongs to. Now, when those data centers get breached, and we've just established they do get breached regularly, hackers don't just get adult data. They get a complete map of names, ages, platform activity, all neatly categorised for them. And when they sell that data, do you think they run background checks on buyers? Do you think they care if it's some identity thief or someone with far darker intentions? To the fuck. All they care about is profit. So congratulations. Age verification has taken a system where kids were relatively anonymous online and replaced it with a system where their identities are catalogued, stored in hackable databases, and available to highest bidder. They say it's to protect children, but they just painted a target on every single one of them. But of course they use that excuse because it stops you thinking about what's really going on. Government surveillance. See, buried in every single one of these laws, there's a clause A neat little provision that says all data collected must be made available to government upon request. Online Safety Act gives Ofcom power to investigate, fine platforms up to 18 million quid or 10% of their global revenue, and demand compliance with whatever codes of practice they decide to write. And those codes aren't debated in Parliament. They're written by a regulator, behind closed doors, with no democratic oversight worth the damn. Ofcom operates as both rulemaker and enforcer, insulated from accountability, writing standards that determine what you can see, what you can say, and where you have to prove you're an adult before you're allowed to do either. And if you thought VPNs were your escape hatch, think again. On January 21st, 2026, House of Lords voted 207 to 159 to ban VPN services for anyone under 18. And to enforce that ban, VPN providers should be forced to verify age of all UK users using highly effective age assurance. Just to use a tool whose entire purpose is protecting your privacy, you'd first have to surrender your identity. Think about that for a second. To access a privacy tool, you must first abandon your privacy. And Keir Starmer's already proposed amendments to restrict VPN use where it undermines safety protections. France has publicly said VPNs are next on their list after their social media ban for under 15s. This isn't one country going rogue. It's a coordinated attack on our privacy, and it's accelerating. Because UK's Online Safety Act doesn't just affect UK. When enforcement kicked in on July 25th, 2025, companies that were forced to comply for British users started rolling out same systems internationally. Why? Because it's cheaper to build one global verification system than maintain separate infrastructure for each country. Discord's doing it. Apple started rolling out age verification for users in March 2026. And they've said UK will be one of the first countries, implying rest are coming. Spotify now requires UK users to verify their age just to view music videos or lyrics tagged 18+. Reddit added age checks for UK users. A zombie apocalypse web game called Urban Dead shut down entirely because it couldn't afford to comply. Cycling forums and sustainable living communities are now gone, not because they hosted dangerous content, because legislation was so broad that running a small community website became a legal liability no hobbyist could afford. Western world prides itself on freedom, but that freedom's being stripped away systematically, one safety law at a time. And most people wouldn't notice until it's too late because they were too busy arguing about whether questioning it makes them a bad person. So here's where I land on this, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Age verification ain't about kids. It never was. Children are a convenient emotional shield for policies that are really about control, data harvesting, and elimination of online anonymity. Actual child safety comes from parents doing their jobs, from supporter schools teaching digital literacy, from communities looking out for each other, not from a government that can't even keep its own systems secure, and in some cases also can't be trusted with kids, demanding you hand over your passport to watch a YouTube video. If you're sat there and let it happen because you're scared of being called a bad person for questioning it, then you deserve what's coming. Because what's coming is a surveillance infrastructure so comprehensive that once it's built, no government, current or future, will ever voluntarily dismantle it. We need to start talking about this more. Start explaining it to your family, to your mates, hell, even your neighbours, what online safety actually means in practice. Because right now, silence is consent, and they're banking on yours. If you like this video, YouTube says you'll like this and next. Go check that out, and I'll see you there, you magnificent.